let's do that intro again. Hey guys, how's it going? So in this video, I'm going to cover the mistakes that you might make in live streaming and how you can avoid them. Let's get into it. So I've got a long list here, that long, but let's go about them one by one. So I'm just going to reel them off. We've got your setup time for the live stream is wrong. Your camera doesn't work. Your microphone doesn't work. Your sharing screen doesn't work. Your sharing of screen audio doesn't work. So the audio attached to the screen that you're sharing isn't working. What do you do then? Then we've got, maybe you've got the wrong camera angles, or maybe you're seeing too much of your background in the view than you expected. You've also got the wrong camera starts streaming. So let's say you're using a device like your iPhone or your iPad, and then you hit go live and then realize it's the back camera that's streaming and you're meant to be streaming from the front camera, or vice versa. What do you do then? Then you've got a situation where your data connection might cut off. You might have selected the wrong microphone, or worse still, a mistake that I even made just before this live stream was that my microphone was muted all the time I was speaking, and I didn't realize it until I tried to change something and realized, oh, it's not recording my audio. That is painful. But anyway, let's keep going. Then there's also the fact that you might have your microphone unmuted when you thought it was muted. For example, when you are doing a work with me live stream where you're not planning on having your audio be audible, but then you wanted to have the music in the background be audible, but then you realize, I'm audible. Everything I've said has been on the internet. Okay. Then beyond that, you may also have an overloaded computer where, because you've got too many programs open, things are moving slower than you would expect. So your video is choppy, for example. What do you do then? Another one. Your camera's overheating and then it switches off. What do you do then? Well, I don't know if I'm going to cover every single way of mitigating for those issues, but those are mistakes that can happen when you're live streaming. Now, the thing is, once you've identified the mistakes, you're halfway there in terms of finding solutions. So let's move on to the solutions in terms of dealing with this. And the solutions I'm going to present to you are twofold. The first is test. The second is contingency. Test and contingency. Let me go into it. So Benjamin Franklin said, to fail to prepare is to prepare to fail. You don't want to fail, so you want to prepare. And how do you prepare? You test. You test every single thing. So it means you test your audio, you test your video, you test the full live stream, you test changing cameras on your stream, you test changing audio devices if you need to do something like that. You need to test also maybe sharing your screen, making sure that the share screen function works. And if you haven't already, you also want to check that you've actually set the right permissions to allow you to share screen on your computer. On Windows, it may be more straightforward, but on Mac, you need to make sure that you've already enabled that in the preferences. Otherwise, you get to the live stream and not be able to share anything. And that would be quite a bummer, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would. So let's avoid that. But beyond that, you also want to just make sure that you've got a checklist of things to check before you live stream. Many people skip this step, but it just makes life so much easier when you just have a checklist you can go through without having to think too hard. Just know that, okay, if I go through all of this and everything checks out, then my live stream is likely to work out. One of those things. So what I'd say again, test. Once you got things tested out and things are working, it's great. And when you're testing things out as well, you want to test on a different device. So what that means is maybe you're recording on your iPad or your computer. You want to test out the stream or watch the stream on your phone. So get another device and then log into the same stream and check that everything is working as expected. Or maybe do the test stream, record it, and then go back and play it to see that it's actually working as expected. If it isn't, then you might want to tweak some things before you actually go live for the live main event. That's something to bear in mind. All right, so moving on to contingency. Now, when it comes to contingency, it's just realizing that things happen, things that you're not expecting, things that you wish didn't happen. So mistakes happen, right? But then how do you deal with them when you are already live? Well, here are a few things that may help you. So in building in contingency, first of all, you want to have alternative streaming platforms that you can use. So some people like to use OBS. OBS is the most popular one, and that's software that's installed on your computer. Then you've got Streamlabs, which is another software that's installed on your computer. But I actually find it a lot easier to use the online streaming platforms. And that's also because I can then add other devices or other screens or other guests on there much more easily. So take StreamYard, for example, or TalkStudio by Streamlabs. Now, these two are software that I've used. I've used both of them and I've enjoyed using both of them actually. And the benefit of this is that I can invite guests on the internet and they can join quite easily into my live stream and without any issues there. So that's quite nice. But beyond that, they are just other tools that you can use if your original tool doesn't work. And you've got to make sure, again, you test. Make sure it's actually recording as expected. That is so important. I can't emphasize how important it is to test your thing first before you actually go live proper. But anyway, enough about that. So let me give you a few platforms or alternatives that you can use when it comes to live streaming. That way, in future, you have alternatives that you can rely on. So for the desktop versions, you've got OBS and you've got Streamlabs. Online, you've got other services like StreamYard. You've got Talk Studio by Streamlabs. I keep mixing up the names. So Talk Studio by Streamlabs. You've got Restream. You've got Riverside.fm. You've got Zoom. And you've possibly got maybe a mix of Google Meet and another software to actually project what you're sharing on Google Meet. But these are all ways of live streaming that may be different from what you're used to, but at least provide you an alternative if what you're used to isn't working as expected. Okay, then moving on from that. So let's say your video feed isn't working. So we're getting into the more nitty-gritty things. How can you deal with that? Well, first of all, you've got to build in some contingency. Now, what I would say is prepare some holding screens. When I say holding screens, I'm referring to things like countdown screens, for example, a be right back screen, a video feed is not working screen, just something that you can put as a video in place of your camera feed so that whilst your camera feed issues are being sorted out, you can have something else showing to your audience that isn't just a plain black screen, because that's not nice. All right, so you can make it whatever you want on it. I personally use Canva to create these, but you can create with whatever software that you're comfortable with. But then you want to have a few holding videos, different things. You want to have maybe a countdown video so that with your live stream, you don't have to start off just off the bat live like that. You may have a countdown, and then at the end of that countdown, you go live. And then that just gives you time to adjust and time to just be ready to go live and not just be caught unawares when the live button goes on. Okay, so beyond that, you may also want to have recorded segments that you can play. So it might be maybe your call to action if you don't want to make mistakes with that. It may be having sections of the video that you're looking to put forward or the information you're looking to put forward already recorded. That way you can play it if something goes wrong. Just one of the things you can build in. It might seem a bit extra to have that, but it depends on the magnitude or the gravity of the live stream that you're putting up. If it's something that's really, really important and maybe a business presentation, for example, it's good to build in this level of contingency. Just saying. So actually having holding screens, very important. Then another big one that could be an issue when live streaming is sharing screen. So when your share screen function on your live streaming software doesn't work. Now, there are many reasons for this. It may be that you haven't selected the right permissions on your computer to allow that to share your screen. It may be that you can see the screen, but you cannot play the audio from the screen you're sharing, in which case you need to check your streaming software. If you're using software on your computer, it's less of an issue, but if you're using online software like StreamYard or Talk Studio, then one thing you need to do is actually grant the permission for that website to share your videos, but also note that you are limited by the browser. And what that means is that if you're streaming with Chrome, you may be able to share the screen of other apps on your computer. However, what you may not be able to do is share the audio from those other apps. So the ideal would be to open up whatever you need to share the screen of within a tab within Google Chrome, and then share that tab, and then you can share the music or the audio from that. So for example, what I do is when I have background music that I need to play in my live stream, I actually add that to a tab on Google Chrome. I'm usually using Google Chrome as my browser. So open up Google Chrome, open up the other tab that I want to share, and then I share that, and I just make sure that the sound is coming through. So I may play the live stream on a different device, maybe my phone, for example, and then just check that the sound is actually feeding through, which is pretty important. And then that's how I just make sure that everything is working properly. Now, like I said, if you want to share things and the audio can't be put into a Chrome tab for whatever reason, maybe you're playing from an alternative source, then you may need to use a different streaming software in order to be able to share that audio. In terms of troubleshooting, you want to check a few things. Let's say your camera feed isn't working. You want to make sure that the camera is plugged in, the camera is on, the cables are connected at both points to the devices they need to be connected to. You want to check that the right resolution has been selected, and then you want to check if there are alternative ways of plugging things in. So for example, if you are using a camera, what you might see is that you might have two options for putting out your video. So that means the video from the camera. It could be either HDMI or USB. If the HDMI isn't working, if your USB isn't working, you might buy an HDMI capture card, which would then let you share your video from your camera into your computer. And that could be an alternative. Again, building in contingency. If one doesn't work, you can switch to the other. I've actually had to do that, but it was the other way around where my HDMI wasn't working properly for some reason, and maybe the video appeared a little squished and I needed it to not be squished. And so I just switched to the USB option, but I had that option. So just checking all the wires, making sure everything is connected properly, and then starting on your live stream. And then barring all that, if there are issues, just tell your audience, apologies, we're having issues, and maybe you may just need to restart the stream, in which case let them know that they just need to come back to your page, restart the stream. It's quite likely that you will lose some people in that process when the live stream breaks, but it's okay. It happens. Mistakes happen. You learn from the process. But yeah, so those were a few mistakes that happen that you need to avoid when you are live streaming, and how you might be able to avoid those mistakes by testing, and building in contingency. All right, I hope this video helped you. If it did, go ahead and leave a like emoji in the comments. I'd love that. And share this video with someone who might find this helpful. And in the meantime, there's going to be a video that appears somewhere on your screen, right about there. Go ahead and click on it. The algorithm thinks you might like it. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye.